Well, welcome back, everybody. Before we start the first session of motions, we're going to have a brief word from our sponsors, Samara. Please remember just how important sponsorship is to an event like this.
Hello, my name's Aaron Mehra, and I'm the CEO and owner of Samara. We're business advisors, and we've been helping dentists for almost 20 years, both NHS, mixed and private dentists. Now, I started off Samara back in 2002 on my dad's dining table with one employee. Since then, we've grown, evolved, and now helped hundreds upon hundreds of dentists here in the UK and beyond. Prior to 2020, dentistry was changing rapidly in the UK, both NHS, mixed and private. However, the pandemic happened and things were never quite the same. During the lockdowns that we all had, our team were helping many dentists with all their financial and business issues, whether it's cash flow statements, raising finance, getting their accounts right, trying to get tax back from the taxman, you name it, we did it. Now, we work with dentists at every point of their career, whether you're starting out as an associate, wanting to get your first tax return done, so wanting to get to your first practice and buy or set up, or whether you need to raise finance to expand your existing practice, or whether you need your accounts and tax help for dealing with the taxman, or at the exit point, you're looking to sell. We are at every stage of a dentist's career. So there are 5 main areas that we can help you with. As I mentioned, we're accountants to many dentists, so if you're looking for cloud accounts, wanting to save tax, get your tax returns done, organising your accounting affairs, we have the team for you. Secondly, we then also are commercial finance agents who are registered with the FCA. This enables us to help you raise finance on good terms, whether you're looking to buy equipment or whether you're looking to buy a practice, we can certainly help. Thirdly, if you're looking to sell a practice, we are brokers, so we can value your practice and help you get the best price on the right terms for you. Fourthly, our team of digital marketing experts can help you with your website and digital marketing. From social media to a new website and everything else in between, we can help you. Fifthly, we are now helping many dentists save money. How are we doing that? Through our dental practice saver service, where we will check your invoices and negotiate better terms for you with alternative suppliers to save you money on all your dental consumables and equipment. So what are you waiting for? Our team at Samara can certainly help you. Now, I appreciate this is a virtual conference today, and we can't meet face to face, but my colleague Dan is ready and waiting, sitting virtually for you to interact and ask any questions. He can help you with a range of services that we provide, and we're here to help. All the best. Thank you.
Thank you, Aaron. Now, welcome back. It's time for us to consider our first batch of motions. The motion proposers have kindly taken the time to submit pre-recordings. As we work through the motions, we'll play each video. During this time, please do start to indicate if you wish to speak by entering your name and whether you're speaking for or against in the request to speak motion button. We'll invite as many as possible to take to the stage. As usual, the proposer of the motion will be given the opportunity to respond to what has been said. You'll see a poll box on the right-hand side, and as chair, I will announce the opening and later the closing of the vote each time. May I just take this opportunity to remind you that LDC observers and guests are not permitted to vote, and that GDPC members are only permitted to vote when it comes to the election of a chair-elect. So just LDC reps to complete the polls, please, and pay attention to the information displayed on each slide, which will indicate whether the motion is UK-wide, just England, or just Wales. Please don't spoil the votes by voting when you're not permitted. Polling reports are produced, and any votes made by those not eligible will be discounted. We've had a few instances where proposers of sub-motions will be called and they'll speak, but the expectation is that the debate will be on the substantive, that is the main motion only. Okay, let's give it a whirl. We're kicking off with a special motion proposed by Eddie Crouch on behalf of the GDPC. Eddie.
Conference. I would like to thank the Chair for allowing me to propose this special motion today. This conference asserts that all forms of discrimination have no place in dentistry. Back in the autumn, the BDA created a new Equality, Diversity and Inclusion Committee, and I want to place on record my thanks to all those who have helped thus far in developing work streams. Such work followed on from the previous subcommittee of GDPC, which started to look at gender inequality within dentistry. And thank you also to those who helped in that work. It is clear, sadly, that like society, discrimination appears very much to affect dentistry. And the workload of this new committee will be wide and varied, and there will be a need to stage and develop this over time. With the upcoming triennial elections due in the autumn for the BDA, it is vital that we encourage and include as wide a range of members as we can onto those committees to reflect the demography of the profession. I am pleased that is our plan. However, when we recently conducted a survey on racism within dentistry, we had comments back that we should stop wasting money and effort on problems that don't exist and to stop being woke. Sadly, these problems do exist, and I hope Conference will approve this motion in support of the work we all must do to challenge discrimination wherever it exists. Conference, I ask you to accept this motion.
Right. Do we have anybody who wishes to speak for or against? Nope. In that case, we better move straight to a vote. And those LDC representatives, vote now, please. Just allowing a little bit of time for everybody to find the appropriate button, seeing as this is the first one. So there we are. I'm delighted to say that has actually been passed unanimously. Very good. So we'll now vote to the first ordinary motion. This is actually proposed by Nick Patzias from Bremley, Bexley and Greenwich. Nick.
At present, compliance companies vary hugely in their advice. Some advise other sectors as well as dentistry, so the recommendations tend to be generic, and others have unnecessarily long-winded procedures, yet miss out some vital information. All this leads to massive time wasting, which knocks on to less chairside time and patient care, which some of the compliance companies in the CQC seem totally oblivious to. Having no oversight on compliance companies can be compared to schools not having Ofsted inspectors there to set teaching standards, which would now be unthinkable. I should like to see the CQC sit down themselves to complete each individual compliance company's paperwork to their own standards to see how much time it takes and actually realise and modify our out-of-surgery workload so that the profession does exactly what's needed to satisfy their concerns in the most efficient manner. Following their response to our request for them to carry out this change, we can then ask ourselves, is the CQC being effective, caring and responsive. Thank you.
In that case, we better move to the vote. Vote now, please. Right, stop voting now, please. We'll count that. So 72% for that. That is carried by a substantial majority. We'll move now to motion 2, proposed by Martin Longbottom from West Pennine LDC. Martin.
I'm Martin Longbottom, representing West Pennine LDC. In the middle of December 2020, the GDC updated its Brexit regulation for dental professionals. This notification gave just over 2 weeks' notice regarding the future registration of EEA graduates. For up to 2 years, the GDC will recognise dental qualifications obtained in EEA countries. The GDC website states that these arrangements will be reviewed no later than the 31st of December 2022. Around 16 to 17% of the UK dentist workforce is registered on the basis of an EU/EEA degree. This includes UK citizens who have studied in Europe. They provide up to 20% of NHS dentistry. Data from NHS Dental Statistics for England 2019-2020 found that in England there were 44.1 NHS dentists per 100,000 population. Simple maths tells us that there are simply not enough NHS dentists, added to the fact that there will be no graduates from Scottish dental schools in 2021. Whatever the future system for recognition of EEA graduates, there is already a waiting list for registration exams and a very small number of places. Conference, we need clarity to be able to plan for our future dentist workforce and certainty for our future EEA colleagues. Please support the motion.
Thank you. Nobody has yet indicated a wish to speak on this. No, nobody coming through. In that case, move to the vote. Please vote now. Right, stop voting now. Can we count the votes, please? So there we are, 99% for and 1 abstention. So that's clearly carried. Move to the next vote, which is also from Martin Longbottom from West Pennine. Martin again, please.
This calls for an increase in the number of places to sit the ORE and an improved application process. Registering as a dentist and working in the UK is a goal that many overseas dentists aspire to. On the GDC website, it does not mention how often the ORE is held. However, according to past years, Part 1 was held twice per year with 100 candidates per exam, whilst Part 2 was held 3 times in 2018 and 2019, with a maximum number of 144 candidates per exam period. Pass rates for Part 1 range from 57 to 78% and Part 2 25 to 67%. In 2020, both parts of the ORE were suspended. The GDC is close to agreeing dates in September 21 for 1 sitting of each part of the exam. The number of dentists registered with a GDC has decreased by approximately 500 in 2020. Please agree that we need to increase the number of places to sit the ORE. Regarding the GDC booking portal, this opens for a fraction of a second as all the places are filled within this time. A dip in internet connection or slightly slower internet speed means that the chance of getting a place is lost. Therefore, being able to sit the ORE can be based on luck. Candidates can try for years and still not get a chance to sit Part 1. So could there be a fairer application process? I think the answer is yes. Please support this motion.
Thank you. Now we have a request from Stephen Schimberg, who's here as a GDPC representative to speak for this motion. Stephen. Right. Okay, just remind everybody to, if they do wish to speak, to press the submit question, request to speak to motion button. Find that on the bottom of your screen. Stephen's just making his way to the front now, I think. Stephen, the floor is yours.
Yeah, good morning, conference. I'd like to support Martin and his motion. I think the GDC is being very obstreperous. We need as many dentists as possible, and it's about time they sorted their act out. Please support the motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Stephen. Any further requests to speak? No. In that case, can we move to the vote, please? Please vote now. Thank you. Please stop voting. We'll now count and display the result. So there we are. Again, clearly carried. A small number of people voted against and a larger abstention on that particular one. Now we'll move to motion 4, proposed by Amar Shah from Northampton. Amar.
Hello. I'm Amar Shah from Northampton LDC. This conference demands that the government and commissioning bodies take urgent action to address the serious problem recruiting and retaining dentists faced by rural communities and those distant from dental schools. Proactive efforts to recruit young dentists into Northamptonshire were very successful historically. However, the importance and value to patient care has been overlooked with changes in foundation training boundaries. Practices face punitive and irreversible contract changes for underperformance despite best efforts to recruit. Inadequate fragmented workforce planning initiatives have failed our profession and patients. We call for recruitment, return to work and retention incentives to be fully explored and implemented, combined with the support of commissioners by providing flexibility with contract targets where practices have suffered recruitment challenges. Thank you.
Thank you. Now, this is the first of the composite motions. We have Amelia Colby, who's going to speak to the subsidiary motion. Amelia?
Good morning, thank you. Lincolnshire LDC is in full support of this motion. We are witnessing a growing crisis in the recruitment and retention of dentists during the COVID-19 pandemic, and the pandemic has only worsened this. I'm very confident that most LDCs will have practices within their area where NHS vacancies are not being filled. This is directly contributing to a lack of access for patients and prior to the pandemic, BDA analysis showed that access was an issue in almost every English region. This was more pronounced in rural areas. For example, in Lincolnshire, over 60% of patients could not access an NHS dental appointment, and I fear this percentage is higher now. This issue needs to be at the forefront of NHS D&I and HEE strategy to ensure there is not a collapse of NHS dental care in rural areas. Any contract reform should address this deepening crisis of recruitment and retention, and I urge conference to support this motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Amelia. Does anybody else wish to speak for or against? No. In that case, we'll move to the motion. Just to remind you that you are voting on the motion that's displayed, the substantive motion. Please vote now. We have displayed a substantial majority in favour of that, so that's carried. Now, in terms of the mechanism of the debate we're having, I've been asked to remind you that when you press the submit question or request to speak now, it should just be your name and for or against, not comments, not a little speech in there because other people can't see it. That's if you want to be called up to speak on the motion. Thank you. So we'll now move to motion number 5, Simon Thackeray from Northamptonshire. Simon.
This calls for an urgent review into the need for enhanced PPE in the dental setting with a particular focus on comfort, staff fatigue and burnout, and the devastating of such measures, clearly weighed against the risk of contamination. It is becoming increasingly apparent that the need for the super enhanced PPE that we are currently wearing is becoming more questionable as every day passes. As we've now moved from pandemic to endemic status, for the vast majority of regions, COVID numbers are now such that the enhanced PPE means the deficits of its continued use far outweigh the benefits. Research is now becoming available that shows the risk to dental staff from aerosol generating procedures is between 0 and negligible. Whilst it can be understood that a precautionary principle may have been appropriate at the very beginning of the pandemic, it is now clear that these precautions are likely to be judged as overzealous in an endemic situation. We are likely the only country in Europe, if indeed not the world, still employing the level of PPE that we currently are using. And there have still been no reported super spreader events in dentistry anywhere in the world. Our previous normal universal principles allow us to maintain optimal dexterity, optimal finesse, and optimal communication, while still protecting ourselves and our patients appropriately. We have done this for many years prior to COVID. This is a finessed, highly dexterous job which is enhanced by communication. If we are tired, fatigued and overheated, this will affect all of us. I'm sure you will all agree that being dressed up in a plastic gown, overheating like a boiler in the bag kipper, and rustling like an overgrown bag of Doritos is not what you all thought dentistry would be like. All of this will also be leading to reduced outcomes for patients as a result. One of the core principles of the GDC means that there is a vital necessity for consent and communication with our patients. This is now being heavily compromised by the continued use of FFP3 masks, and at a time when many patients are concerned about their dental health, clear and compassionate communication with them is severely stilted as a result. Many of our patients who are not registered deaf have learnt to augment their hearing by lip reading. This is impossible for them when faced with a practitioner in high-level PPE. Additionally, can we actually understand them fully? This begs the question, do we actually have full consent for our treatment as a result of these obstacles? This is clearly a huge deficit in our ability to care for our patients in a manner that is expected by the GDC. we are seeing an increasingly worrying issue with retention and recruitment amongst our dental teams, with many of us reporting the loss of nurses in real time as a result of burnout due to PPE wear. This is further impacting on access at a time of huge demand. The vaccination programme within the profession has been an astounding success. Research is now suggesting that transmission of the virus by those vaccinated or even partially vaccinated is significantly reduced. And as the majority of our patients are now also vaccinated, pre-screening of them means that the risks for both them and us is now still further decreased, again placing the need for the enhanced PPE clearly in the camp of deficit rather than benefit. Finally, the significant increase in clinical waste now noted by all of us only serves to damage our environment still further, and once again it is time to look very closely at the green issues surrounding our profession. Again, a further deficit. We face the danger that when we allow ourselves to be enhanced in this manner, it is then very rare to be allowed to reduce from this level. It is vital, therefore, that we have to lead our profession in the need for reduction. There is now a breathing space for the profession to begin to increase its output once more, which will only be possible if all the current recommendations, including fallow times, are relaxed. What is therefore required is an urgent review into PPE, which includes clinically practicing stakeholders and not just those who do not currently practice but dictate their views to the rest of the profession. I therefore commend this motion to conference for its approval.
Thank you, Simon. Now, Naresh Patel has indicated he wishes to speak. Naresh, you haven't actually said whether you're for or against. Can I call you to the stage?
Hello, is that working?
I can certainly hear you. I can't actually see you at the moment. Oh, there you are. Right, fire away.
Hello, I'm fully in support of this motion. I agree totally with Simon. I'd actually like to see him rattling around like a bag of Doritos, but that's by the side of that. I'd like to say this is a fantastic motion from an environmental point of view, which we all encompass and accept, but also from a clinical evidence point of view. There's no evidence for this rubbish. We know this quite significantly by looking at our colleagues in other countries. And also the point I raised about vaccination, where there's loads of evidence, the government decide not to make something policy, and where there's so little evidence, they make it policy. So I would encourage everybody to support Simon's motion. Thank you very much.
To respond to that, Simon?
Well, the response is obviously, thank you to Naresh for supporting it. We cut from the same cloth, and the cloth isn't waterproof, rattly Dorito bags. It's a huge issue, and it's become apparent as well that when I recorded this, it wasn't necessarily toward the forefront, but obviously now the BDA have written to the 4 CDOs with regards to roadmap. But unfortunately, I suggest, having listened to the CDO today, the roadmap that they're likely to be using is the 1937 edition of the AA's roadmap, rather than the one that we could upload onto our sat navs rather rapidly. And I think really my point here is now speed is of the essence. People are leaving the profession, and it doesn't have to be the frontline dentists in the team who are leaving the profession. They may have more invested in the practice infrastructure and their commitments. It's our teams, the mental health of our teams. They are leaving in droves, and we cannot practice without them.
Okay, Simon, thank you very much for that. Nobody else has indicated they wish to speak. So can we move to the vote now, please? move to motion 6, Aggie Taranowski, West Sussex. Aggie.
Process of contract reform has been on the horizon for over a decade. I fear that the assumption that capitation and continuing care arrangements are the only activity of value in primary care. Developing and commissioning level 2 activity is even further behind progress on the new clinical and remuneration models. Under the current UDA system, a dentist providing NHS care in the primary care setting could have the same rate and value from the day after completing FT to the day they retire, with no clear and predictable way of progressing their clinical career while maintaining an NHS and primary care commitment. NHS England commissions based on what their population needs. This is not cyclical and means that opportunities are few and far between. Even if you did invest in skills that you want to use for the NHS, you may not have the opportunity to put yourself forward until tendering occurs in your area. It perhaps isn't surprising then that skilled workers have little choice but to walk away. 75% of the workforce are now associates, with a gradual shift away from career progression into independent principal and providers. If that particular career progression is not possible or desirable for the workforce, what incentives are there for primary care dentists to stay and develop and to serve the NHS? This motion calls for the GDPC to actively work with NHS England and HEE to develop a consistent and predictable pathway that enables career opportunities that can sustain and retain its changing workforce in order to deliver care that patients need. Thank you for supporting this motion.
Thank you. Right, at the moment, we have Russell Gidney, who would like to speak for. Russell, would you care to come to the stage?
Morning, can you hear me?
We can indeed, Russell. Please fire away.
Yeah, I'd like to speak to support this motion, but I feel it goes a little beyond the level that Aggie has presented. The issue is that if you develop extended skills, you are obliged to offer those skills within the NHS. So actually, you're not staying paid at the same level. You actually start to reduce your pay because you are then taking on cases that have increased complexity and take increased time for you to work on. And because you have those skills, and you offer them on the NHS, or if you offer them privately, you have to be able to offer them on the NHS. You can't offer them privately without offering them on the NHS. So actually, there's a strong disincentive to actually get paid less if you invest in your own development. So please support the motion.
Thank you, Russell. Nobody else wishes to speak for or against. Can we now move to the vote? Vote now, please. We have the results. So once again, a thumping majority. Thank you, conference, for that. Now then, we're just having a couple of little technical issues. Getting the proposer of motion 7 here. So I'm suggesting we move to motion 8 and try and come back to that. No, we're not. So do you want me to do motion 7 anyway? Yes. So we will move to motion 7 and hear the recording now. Could you put that on, please? Thank you.
Hi, conference. The pandemic has highlighted now more than ever the inadequacies of the current NHS dental contract, which was never fit for purpose in the first place. It has forced dentists into a position of having to choose either chasing targets or patient care, each coming at the cost of the other. And the fallout has been that dentists' mental health and well-being has been adversely affected, as evidenced by the growing call volumes to support services such as confidential. Prior to the current dental contract introduced in 2006, dentists were already working on a fee-per-item treadmill, and whilst a commitment by central government has recently been made to reform the contract, further assurances must be given that the treadmill effect of counting widgets is not repeated in any shape or form. Current IT facilities available to dentists should enable them to record and show improvements in oral hygiene, perio, caries, tooth surface loss, smoking, and alcohol intake. Where these have shown to have improved, this should provide the evidence of the activity required to achieve them. We need to look back to the Steele report and take forward and implement the model for contract reform that was suggested within the report all those years ago. Patients should take responsibility for maintaining their oral health, and advanced dental care should only be possible when the environment is stable to do so, not simply to gain 12 UDAs as easily as possible. We need a capitation weighting for each patient and a clinical pathway for regular patients to follow based on a concrete risk assessment and pathway. We must also recognise that a percentage of the population will not want a regular relationship with their dentist, but only attend when in pain. If these can be developed further, access will improve as patients' health improves and only then be placed on a longer recall interval. We should not be unfairly penalised for accepting new patients and receive heavy penalties should we fail to hit target. There is also scope within this proposed new contract to fully utilise the wider dental team, such as DCPs, who have been sidelined within the current contract due to its crude target-driven focus and the inability for UDAs to be delineated to individual performers. This will not only benefit patients, as they have access to more dental services delivered by a wider skill mix, but also benefit dental teams, as they can deliver dental care that is not just reliant on the dentist alone providing all the services. Any new contract must therefore have prevention as a central feature, along with patient outcomes to monitor and improve oral health, and not just measure activity targets, which has no place in a modern healthcare setting. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Tej. We appear to have nobody wishing to speak for or against that motion. Before we move to voting, can I just remind delegates that this is an English vote, so it's LDC representatives from England only who can vote on this. Please vote now. Right, thank you. Stop voting now, and can we have the results displayed, please? So once again, passed by a thumping majority. We'll move now to motion number 8, proposed by Dan Cook for Gwent. Obviously, unlike the previous motion, this is just Wales. Can I call you to the stage, please, Dan?
Calls for Welsh Government to guarantee that where untested metrics are applied to NHS contracts through reform, there is no risk of financial penalties for practices making reasonable efforts to meet their responsibilities. Welsh practices are lucky to see revolutionary changes in the NHS contract with the possibility of the total removal of the UDA as a measure for treatment. These are almost universally welcomed. However, the restrictions through COVID-19 have interfered with the staged development of the contract reform, and now, in recovery, these changes are being introduced without the opportunity to test or validate the measures that are being rolled out. This conference calls upon Welsh Government to make explicitly clear that untested measures will not be used to financially penalise practices until they can be validated.
Thank you for that, Dan. Now, nobody's indicating a wish to speak for or against. Is that right? Okay. In that case, can we move to the vote? Just remind everybody this is for LDC delegates from Wales only. Stop voting, thank you, and could we have the results displayed, please? So there we are, 4, but by a substantial but not exclusive majority. Thank you very much. Right, we'll move to motion number 9 now from Duncan Thomas, Northumberland. Duncan.
Duncan Thomas presenting motion 9 for Northumberland Local Dental Committee. Recruitment of dental associates is becoming a real issue in our rural areas. This is compounded where that position is mainly to deliver care under an NHS contract. A 2017 survey of its members by the BDA found that 53% of 35-year-olds intended to leave the NHS in the next 5 years. I'd be very surprised if COVID-19 has reversed that trend. If the government does intend to provide any sort of universal NHS dental service, then the workforce needs to be supplemented from somewhere else. Dental therapists have the training to be able to complete examinations and screening for dental disease, and to provide much of the treatment identified in those examinations. Yet under current NHS regulations, many of us find it very difficult to make a therapist model of delivery work because of the barriers within the current regulations. We hear time and again of newly qualified dental therapists working exclusively as dental hygienists, rapidly de-skilling after their expensive training comes to an end. Why can't a dental therapist be recognised as a performer under the NHS, opening courses of treatment and managing patients without the need for a dentist to sign everything off? I would also contend that there is no reason why they can't receive the same benefits of NHS pensions and maternity rights as dentists. The proportion of contract value in any practice that the therapist delivers does not get superannuated because there is no mechanism for that to be passed on to the therapist, which is another saving for Her Majesty's government on top of the increase in clawback sums year on year. Whilst we look outside the narrow models of care we are used to, why don't we look at the ever-expanding roles our DCP colleagues can provide and free them to deliver the care that our patients need? We're all keen that any new or reformed contract focuses on prevention. Who better to deliver that vital aspect of care than our DCP team? Having been part of the initial piloting of a reformed contract, the opportunities that allowed our team to be involved in delivering that care benefited our patients greatly. And our DCPs loved the direct involvement they had with patients too. I ask you to support this motion.
Thank you. Now, again, nobody has indicated a wish to speak for or against. So could we move to the vote straight away, please? Just remind delegates, this is England only. Just England. Sorry. Oh, I think we might have somebody. Okay, it would appear that this is although badged up as an England only, it may well apply to Wales as well. So can we treat this as if it's a UK-wide motion, please? So our Welsh friends can vote. Thank you. Stop voting now, please, and can we display the results? So there we are, a majority, quite a big majority for, so that motion is passed. Motion 10, this is also badged up as an England one, so I'm going to ask Duncan to propose that, and we'll just consider in the background whether or not that might be UK-wide. Duncan, come back.
Motion 10 on behalf of Northumberland Local Dental Committee. In my practicing lifetime, I've been to many practice management lectures, and at many have seen the same slide showing an equilateral triangle that is used to describe the inextricable link between quality, cost, and time. It demonstrates that you can't have one side of the triangle without either of the other two. Some background reading ahead of presenting this motion tells me this concept appears to have come from the world of project management. And further reading led me into the world of manufacturing and eventually into theories of healthcare provision. All have similar themes, but some introduce the concept of team morale as a measure of success too. Finally, I ended up back with the Steele report from 2009. Reading it left me quite depressed. The inescapable logic of Professor Steele's analysis is to introduce a system that rewards the delivery of quality dental care, removing some of the illogical barriers to access that were introduced in the 2006 new contract. There are lots of reasons why our teams need to spend more time with patients, as expectations are ever increasing. We have a greater emphasis on sharing the risks and benefits of each option with our patients, and increasing consumerism in general in dentistry. Pilots based on the Steele Review started in 2011, with the objective of delivering a new or reformed contract to improve the widely discredited 2006 contract. These morphed into prototypes, recruiting more practices who had previously met their UDA targets. But where are we now? These prototypes, 10 years of learning, look like they're being quietly dropped. Why? Because many found that delivering better quality preventative care takes time. Many of these practices found it impossible to maintain the same levels of access. Adequate clinical time is essential. We all know that it isn't free. Thank you.
Thank you, Duncan. Now, nobody has indicated they wish to speak for or against, and we have decided, the vast committee sitting with me here, that this is a UK-wide motion, so all LDC delegates are entitled to vote, and could they do that now, please? Thank you. Stop voting, and can we have the result displayed, please? So there we are, thumping majority for, so that motion is clearly carried. We're now going to enter a short break period, so please remember health and safety. Do get up and move around a little bit. And that concludes the first section of motions. Please return to the main agenda page, clicking that back to agenda button. Don't use the back button on your browser because that will lock you out. And then the next session will be starting at 20 past the hour, so not very long. We're going to have updates from the Deputy CDOs for England and from Colette Bridgman, the CDO for Wales. Thank you, everybody.